The Roman Empire spent more gold on gladiatorial games than on entire military campaigns. Emperors bankrupted treasuries. Citizens paid fortunes for blood-soaked seats. The Colosseum wasn't entertainment, it was Rome's most expensive addiction, and it destroyed them. The numbers reveal a staggering truth. Emperor Trajan's games in 107 AD consumed 10,000 gladiators and 11,000 animals over 123 days. The cost exceeded 300 million sestertii, enough to fund 15 legions for an entire year. A single day of games required the equivalent of feeding Rome's population for a month. Wild beasts were shipped from Africa at astronomical expense. Exotic animals cost more than their weight in gold. The infrastructure alone demanded constant repair, with underground mechanisms requiring hundreds of slaves and engineers. Meanwhile, Rome's borders weakened, military funding dwindled, the empire chose spectacle over security, and the price would soon come due. The Colosseum's seating arrangement reflected Rome's rigid social order with brutal precision. Senators occupied the marble seats closest to the arena floor, where blood splattered their togas during executions. The equestrian class sat in the tier above, still close enough to hear the dying screams. Common citizens filled the middle sections, paying substantial fees for mediocre views. The poor climbed to the highest reaches, where wooden benches offered only distant glimpses of carnage. Slaves and women were relegated to the very top, standing in the sun for hours. Entry tokens made from bone or pottery controlled access, with each tier requiring different credentials. The system wasn't just about watching games. It was a physical manifestation of who mattered in Roman society and who didn't. Behind every gladiator stood a complex business empire. Training schools called ludi functioned as brutal investment firms, purchasing slaves and prisoners for enormous sums. A single promising fighter could cost 50,000 sestertii, the equivalent of a luxury villa. These schools employed doctors, trainers, armorers, and nutritionists to protect their assets. Gladiators consumed high-protein diets of barley, beans, and meat, far superior to what common Romans ate. Their training regimen lasted years, with wooden weapons and constant drilling. Contracts bound fighters to their owners, who calculated return on investment with cold precision. A successful gladiator generated revenue through appearance fees, victory bonuses, and merchandise. The schools operated like modern sports franchises, trading fighters between cities and negotiating terms with event organizers. This wasn't random violence, it was calculated commerce built on human suffering. Emperors understood a fundamental truth. Bread and circuses bought loyalty more effectively than military might. Nero spent 100 million sestertii on a single year of games, draining reserves his predecessors had accumulated over decades. Caligula bankrupted the imperial treasury within 12 months, funding spectacles so elaborate that historians still debate their accuracy. Commodus personally fought in the arena 735 times, charging the state 1 million sestertii per appearance, paid to himself. Titus opened the Colosseum with games lasting 100 days, a political maneuver to secure his legitimacy after his father's controversial reign. The formula was simple. The more blood spilled in the sand, the quieter the population remained about corruption, inflation, and failing borders. These weren't acts of generosity. They were calculated bribes, and Rome's citizens accepted them willingly, trading their political voice for entertainment. The Roman appetite for violence wasn't accidental. It was engineered into the fabric of their civilization. From childhood, citizens witnessed public executions in forums and crossroads. Death became normalized, then entertaining, then necessary. The games fulfilled a psychological need that peaceful societies couldn't understand. Romans believed violence purged societal tensions, channeling aggression away from civil unrest toward controlled brutality. The arena transformed murder into ritual, chaos into ceremony. Spectators experienced collective catharsis, bonding through shared bloodlust. This wasn't primitive savagery, it was sophisticated social control. The empire had created a population that required violence to feel alive, and once that addiction took hold, there was no turning back. The logistics of death operated on a continental scale. Roman animal traders established networks spanning 3 continents, from the forests of Germania to the deserts of North Africa. Trappers risked their lives capturing lions, bears, elephants, and rhinoceroses using techniques that killed more animals than they saved. The survivors endured months-long journeys in wooden cages, transported by ship and cart to Rome's holding facilities. Mortality rates exceeded 50% before the beasts ever reached the arena. A single lion cost 12,000 sestertii, equivalent to a skilled laborer's lifetime earnings. Elephants commanded prices exceeding 100,000 sestertii each. The empire's demand was insatiable, requiring fresh shipments weekly to satisfy the crowd's expectations for novelty and exotic carnage. The inauguration of the Colosseum in 80 AD stands as perhaps the bloodiest single event in human entertainment history. Emperor Titus orchestrated 100 days of continuous games to celebrate the amphitheater's completion. On the opening day alone, 5,000 animals perished in orchestrated massacres that lasted from dawn until darkness fell. Lions, elephants, bears, leopards, and creatures Romans had never seen before were slaughtered in choreographed hunts called venationes. Archers stationed on platforms fired volleys into panicked herds. Bestiari armed with spears pursued wounded animals across the blood-soaked sand. The carnage wasn't random, it was theatre, designed to demonstrate Rome's dominion over nature itself. The message was clear: if the empire could command death on this scale for entertainment, what chance did its enemies have? Some gladiators transcended their slave status to become the ancient world's first sports superstars. Flamma fought 34 times, won 21 battles, and refused freedom 4 times because arena fame proved more valuable than liberty. Spiculus became Emperor Nero's favorite, receiving palaces and riches that rivaled senators' wealth. Gladiators earned appearance fees reaching 100,000 sestertii per fight, wealth that would take common Romans multiple lifetimes to accumulate. Women from noble families risked scandal to pursue affairs with these fighters, leaving graffiti declarations of love on Pompeii's walls. Their images appeared on oil lamps, pottery, and mosaics throughout the empire. These men were simultaneously slaves and celebrities, property and icons, a contradiction that revealed Rome's twisted values more clearly than any law ever could. Breaking down the costs reveals the true insanity of Rome's addiction. A standard gladiatorial bout between 2 trained fighters cost the state between 20,000 and 50,000 sestertii, enough to feed a family for 5 years. Executions during the midday intermissions, where criminals faced wild beasts, still required 15,000 sestertii per death when accounting for animal procurement and handler fees. Elaborate staged battles, called nomachiae, where the arena was flooded for naval combat, exceeded 1 million sestertii for a single afternoon. The Colosseum's operating budget consumed approximately 5% of Rome's entire annual revenue. Every sword thrust, every fallen body, every roar of the crowd represented wealth that could have built aqueducts, reinforced legions, or fed the starving provinces. Instead, it vanished into sand that workers raked clean each night, preparing for tomorrow's expensive deaths. The end came not with a single decree, but through slow economic starvation. By the 4th century, Rome's treasury could no longer sustain the extravagance its citizens demanded. The cost of importing animals had tripled as North African populations were hunted to extinction. Training schools closed as investment capital dried up. Emperor Constantine's conversion to Christianity in 312 AD provided moral justification for what economic reality had already dictated. Christian bishops condemned the games as pagan barbarism, though their opposition gained traction only because the empire was already bankrupt. The final gladiatorial combat occurred in 404 AD, when monk Telemachus jumped into the arena to stop a fight and was stoned to death by an enraged crowd. Emperor Honorius banned the games immediately afterward, but the truth was simpler. Rome could no longer afford its addiction. and the empire that had chosen spectacle over survival was already dying. Rome's addiction to blood cost them everything. Thanks for watching this journey through history's most expensive entertainment. Hit that like button, subscribe for more untold stories, and share this with someone who needs to see it.